One of the meals I enjoy making at college is a breakfast burrito. And while it has some characteristics of a burrito, it isn't exactly one, and I generally only eat it at lunch. What it is a bean and egg kind of scramble thing, but each separated, which I then put in some corn tortillas. And then, admittedly, I often also have a lot extra. And I'll often have corn alongside it, as well as plenty of cheese, salsa, and fresh tomatoes if I have them. Before starting, I cut up a 2-inch onion, place the corn tortillas in the toaster oven so when I'm busy later I can just turn that on without having to get them into there, and get a pot ready with water and soon to be corn into it. I'll also cut up cheese. With tomatoes I'll wait to cut those up because I want to make sure that those are still fresh, because even cutting them up a little bit earlier I find makes it not so great. As the frying pan is heating up, I'll put in a good chunk of lard. Once that's melted and it's up to temperature, I'll put in the onions and start frying those. Once those have been done for a while and are looking partly done, I'll put in the beans. I'm using black beans today, but I'll also use pintos, and these have been fully cooked before using them in here. I'm effectively refrying them. I find the lard gives a particularly nice flavor to beans, but you can use any sort of grease or oil, and honestly you probably don't even need that because of the non-stick pan I'm using. Though initially when cooking the beans I give them a good stir, but after enough water is boiled off and they've just warmed up enough, I set them off to one side and kind of make them like a patty. The reasoning is that, well, I want them to one side so I can add the eggs. Generally I add about 3 eggs, and that's just personal preference of how much I want. And that also having them set off to one side allows them to develop a nice crust. And a little bit after putting the eggs in, I'll start the toaster oven, as well as putting some pepper on the eggs. I'll also use some pepper later when the eggs are about to be done. Then it's time to assemble the plate. I'll generally put a bit of beans on first. And unfortunately these beans didn't happen to form a crust. It doesn't happen every time. And then I'll put on some eggs, and I've put cheese on the eggs before taking them out of the pan to get it nice and melty. After choosing what I'm going to put in the tacos, I'll just dump everything else on the side of the plate. Then some corn. Some homemade salsa. And the tomatoes. And yes, it is somewhat of a bit of a mess to eat, but that's why I have a spoon, and most of this will be eaten with a spoon, only a little bit by hand. I find this a very nice and fulfilling lunch, and while it does take some time to make, it isn't the longest amount of time you can spend on a meal. One time when I was in a particular hurry because I lost track of time, I managed to, from like starting making this to finished and all the dishes cleaned up, get it done in half an hour. More typical is probably around 45 minutes. And that's why I don't do it on weekdays, but only on weekends when I have a bit more time and am willing to spend that time making a nice, delicious meal. So this is actually the first time I've cooked in this new apartment. I switched apartments between my junior and senior year. And so today was a bit of a learning experience, learning the different controls and the temperatures that they go on. Good.